May 26, 1977, New York City. The NYPD just released the psychological report of the .44 caliber killer, who was still gripping New York in the reign of terror that started July of 1976. It continued into 1977 with 4 more attacks. Gus Engelman of ABC News.
Don't forget, every resident, every citizen of this city was being fed a daily diet of sad news or bad news, the financial crisis for a solid year. And just the day before, there was that terrible, tragic story that all of us covered, that bathhouse fire, the Everard bathhouse fire. That was just 24 hours before that all of us were on the scene practically the same time in the morning covering that type of story.
It was also going to be a historic day for George Willig, a toy maker, inventor, rock climber, who was about to test his latest invention on the South Tower of the World Trade Center. George's friend Randy.
I'll tell you, I think we were all so calm, and we just well, he's finally doing it. George has been talking about doing it for a year. George was working on these things, and he talked about it, and we went down, about a couple, pretty frequently to check out things.
5, 6 times maybe.
And we went to the top, and it was like an adventure, it was like the saga of George George and the World Trade Center. Yeah, but there's just another climb, you know what I mean?
He's on the slanted edge now of the roof. He's lifting himself up right by the hatch. Police have their head out the window, their arms out. They're ready to assist him in. And there he goes. There he goes into the hatchway. He's in there safely.
A session of informal interviews were recorded with George at his apartment in Hollis, Queens, along with Gus Engelman of ABC News a few weeks after the climb. Here are some of the chosen cuts of those interviews almost some 35 years later.
The crowd was being held back on the sidewalk area. They were not allowed on the promenade, so to speak, surrounding the Twin Towers. I guess a lot of people were late for work that morning because everybody was just looking up, and it was, it was an amazing sight. Nobody was moving. Traffic wasn't moving. Everybody was just looking at this figure climbing the building.
Did you really think you were going to get arrested? I thought I might very well have to spend maybe 60 days or whatever. Didn't matter. Yeah. Not 60 days. I thought I'd spend some time in jail maybe.
And when you came down, your mind must have seen all these people there with all the cameras. Did you expect that?
I started expecting that because when I started climbing, I was up 20 floors. I started hearing sirens going and stuff, and I figured, well, there's got to be fires and crimes going on anyway. But a lot of them were going off. I figured, maybe half of them had to do with me climbing a building. And I saw a commotion. I saw some fire trucks come, and I saw them blocking off with police lines, and I saw people, I'd look down and see what's going on. Then helicopters started coming.
Did that feel better than the fact of just climbing the World Trade Center?
No, the fact that I was climbing felt the best, but the fact that was happening was really it just added cream on top of it.
The strawberries.
It's this helicopter hovering 500 feet from me, and I see a guy there with a camera, and I turn around, I waved, I was freaking out. And then when the cops came down to me on the scaffolding, they were telling me, you're going to be famous. You don't have anything to worry about. You're going to be a millionaire. I said, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Don't worry about whatever charges that happen, they'll probably be dropped.
That must have been.
But I wasn't worried anyway. I didn't care.
What did he say to you on the side? I said, "Are you crazy, kid?" Or "What's happened over
First thing he said, "What are you, crazy?" I said, "No. Look, here's what I'm doing." I showed him the stuff. He said, "We got to stop meeting like this." My wife's getting annoyed. He really said that. Then I showed him the things, what I was doing. I showed him a little bit how they worked, and everything. I said, "Wow, they look pretty good. Yeah, they work nice. Going up,
Well, he was supposedly more scared on the scaffold than you were on the side of the building.
One of them was really scared, and the other one wasn't afraid of it.
Very conscious of where he was.
Yeah.
Long Island born and raised in Queens, George was climbing things from the age of 6. As an explorer scout while on hiking and camping trips, he was known as the human fly or mountain goat. He climbed without technical aids because he knew nothing about them. He just climbed. His first high climb was a 200-foot cliff in the Catskills. Soon he was climbing friends' houses, dorms, and sneaked into a concert at the Singer Bowl in Flushing, New York, by climbing the outside of the venue and reaching the last row of seats in the upper deck. These climbs were occasional escapades, until he saw a short film in 1972 by Mike Hoover called Solo. It was about a man scaling a massive cliff alone. This film was the spark that ignited George's passion for climbing. It was after a cross-country trip in an old VW bus to the Rockies that he stood with his friend Bill Beck in Washington Square Park in New York, pointed to the Trade Center and said, "One of these days, someone is probably going to climb it. It's the only thing left to do." From that point on, George was taken with the idea.
We were just so blasé about the whole thing. I mean,
I have a question nobody's asked you. It might be a good question. What did you, Stephen and Jerry, talk about when you were down in the plaza? What did you talk about when I started climbing? You know, and apparently you were together, right?
Yeah.
What were you talking about? Did you say anything like, "I wish I did go with him"?
No, he didn't. Like, we were all just...
Were you going to do a duo up there? Or?
All three of them I had asked. But Jerry didn't want to do it, my brother didn't want to do it, and Randy said she didn't want to do it.
I didn't want to do it as much as George wanted to. I just figured, well, I climbed with him, so I climbed.
I wanted you to have a passion to do it, otherwise I wouldn't take you.
The grips, were they like brake shoes, more or less?
Kind of work like brake shoes.
They clamp on and they...
Yeah, when you pull down, it would just clamp and squeeze, you know, in the channel. What I did was more unprecedented. It's never been done before, climb a building that looks unclimbable. And the winds, you know, like the winds weren't that high, maybe they're 20 miles an hour the way they were coming around the building where I was. But in reality, they're probably, in the free space, they're probably maybe 10 knots or so.
Traffic had practically come to a halt in the area because everybody had heard about it, or they just saw, you know, when you're driving along, and it was amazing. All of a sudden, I saw cars just stopping as if they were rubbernecking at the scene of an accident. Everybody had his or her car radio on, so they were looking at this figure climbing this building, and I guess it appealed to everybody's imagination, everybody's feeling of heroics. Gee, this guy's doing something I'd like to do. Boy, I wish of luck, Godspeed. I mean, everybody was just caught up in it. They just got involved. Exactly. I guess it's something everybody dreams of doing, and here was somebody actually doing it before your very eyes. He didn't appear to be the cold, calculating guy who figured, hey, I'm going to be a hero overnight. I can't wait till those TV crews come and what have you. We seemed to duck the publicity. He wasn't looking for it.
I was going to do it in March or April. I really want to do it in March or April. And this was in the fall when I hadn't even finished the devices and I was still working on them. I was trying to aim for doing them in the mid-spring. And as it happened, I just, you know, I had some projects at work to do that I thought were important. I didn't want to hang them up, you know, because I thought I'd be maybe arrested and put in jail. Who knew, you know?
Yeah. What do you do at Ideal Toys?
I'm a model maker.
And you're in a think tank as well, right?
Yeah, it's a think tank. That's what I do in a think tank.
Create.
Yeah, problem solve. I'm just afraid of having my name associated with some maybe junky toys.
Well, they could. The ones that break when you drop them from a very high distance, you know.
Well, that must be a really notice that. Was that a gag gift or is that some sample?
The King Kong thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just a gag. They put my face, you see my face on it?
No.
Look at the cover.
Oh,
Ideal makes that.
Oh yeah, the King Kong.
The guys in my department did that.
That's great. That's great. They took us out of the Times, it looks like.
Yeah.
After that
art. So I figured, well, why don't I wait till it's warmer out? So I was really in like 2 months, I was kind of putting it off, and you know, it just seemed so unreal. I was wondering to myself, I wonder if I'll really do it. I actually said it to some people who knew about it. I said, you know, I don't know if I'm really going to do the climb. I wonder if it's really necessary for me to do it. What am I trying to prove?
And you've been climbing for how long?
Not 4 years.
4 years? That's not too long when you consider what you've done.
No, but I've done a lot in 4 years.
Have you?
I've climbed voraciously, yeah. Covered a lot of ground, you know, got good fast.
Yeah, I read in one of the Times articles you climbed something called the Lunatic's Fringe.
Lunatic Fringe, yeah.
What is that, and why is it lunacy to climb something like that?
That's just the name of the climb. See, when a climb is put up in a climbing area, whoever puts it up usually, whoever does the climb first, names it. There are names that are obscene. There are all kinds of names. People think of all these great names, you know, for climbs, and you know, most of the people are like young people like us that climb. The hardest rock climb in the world is 75 feet long.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not length that matters, it's difficulty.
Getting back to the actual climb, did you feel there was too much risk involved, or any risk at all? In other words,
of course,
was there a Mayday plan that you might have had?
I had planned for escapes, to escape the window washers mainly. That was my biggest danger. My two biggest dangers were other people interfering with what was going to go on. Pretty confident in what I had going, and I'd be the only one to pay if something went wrong. Hopefully, you know. That's one reason why I picked that particular corner of the building. I knew that they would seal off the plaza, and there wouldn't be people right on the bottom, so that if I fell, I wouldn't land on anybody. I mean, even with the winds, I would have been blown a little bit away, but I still would have landed in the plaza or maybe on top of one of the shorter buildings around there.
Yeah.
But not in the street. I minimized the risks and the dangers to as low a degree as I could.
Were you eating donuts?
I wasn't eating a thing.
What?
I don't know. People color up the story. They have to make me look human, so I have to eat up there, you know.
For a donut or something.
Yeah, right. I could have worn a Van Heusen shirt.
Yeah.
Dragged a big pen on the side of the building.
And Kedge sneakers, and it would have been going right, yeah.
Drank 7-Up, then Coca-Cola on the next floor, you know.
Oh my
But people, I don't think, people can't really cash in on illegal acts for advertising, I don't think.
Right.
And that was an illegal act.
It was.
Well,
yeah, well, this.
Although there are no laws that say you can't climb a building, I was given a summons that said on unauthorized climbing of a building.
Not to mention the
criminal trespass,
the fare that you
and endangering.
Reckless endangerment.
beat for the elevator ride to the top of the world.
Right, yeah.
You know.
I paid $1.10. That lawsuit from the city is $1.10, which is even less than the elevator fare.
Cheaper than Empire State. That's a bargain.
Yeah. Well, the Empire State and the World Trade Center, I think they were both $1.70 or
$1.50,
$1.80.
something like that. Yeah.
Did you get a receipt for the $1.10?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a really nice receipt.
Is it really?
Yeah. City Hall with a little gold emblem on it. I think I'm gonna frame it and hang it up. I got a couple of letters from people and stuff, things I could really hang up and just look nice. I think I've gotten a lot of letters from young people, from whole classes of kids, from schools. You know, they've sent me letters and drawing pictures of me climbing the building. It's really cute, you know.
Another example of how people really got caught up in this story and really felt for this guy was the following day when he showed up at City Hall. If you recall, when Mayor B made the announcement that, heck, the city ain't going to sue him after all. They're just going to charge him, what was it, a penny a floor, whatever it was. And the fine was $1.10. But when he arrived at City Hall, everybody stopped work. All the secretaries in all the offices in and around City Hall, which is a very large building, as you know. They got up, they left their desks, left their typewriters, applauded him, looked, he was like a movie star in the eyes of all those female secretaries down there. As he passed by each desk, they applauded, goo-goo eyes. They asked for his autograph. Even the so-called jaded veterans of the political scene, all the reporters that have been covering politics and covering City Hall for years and years, they work out of a room down there known as Room 9. When Willig came in, they all left their typewriters, and they all ran out because they wanted to see this guy.
Sure.
And, these reporters are used to seeing royalty, heads of state visit the mayor, at City Hall. And I don't think they had that kind of a gut feeling for visiting heads of state or visiting royalty as they had about George Willig. He just seemed to affect everybody in that kind of vein.
What were you promoting?
Nothing.
Device?
No,
Yourself?
I didn't care if anybody saw me or not, really.
Yeah?
I just wanted to do it.
You just wanted to do it?
Yeah. Just devices, I don't think have much commercial potential, if any. There might be 6 buildings in the world that have those kind of channels on them.
Sure, right.
I'm willing to work with the fire department, maybe coming up with something that might be of use as a takeoff from this. I don't know what it would necessarily be, but I think maybe we could work together on that. That would be nice.
Definitely.
It would be something that's good, something positive,
Are you in the Guinness Book of World Records?
I have to submit a letter to them and say what I did and have 2 witnesses sign it. I haven't done it yet.
Well, how about the police officers that you gave?
I could have them sign it.
Sure, I think that would be...
Just anybody. Yeah.
What would your category be then? What would your title?
The guy said they might put it in mountaineering or something. They don't know what else to put it under.
Climbing a Shear-face or something like that.
Yeah, there were other Shear-faces much higher than that, but they don't know. He doesn't know. The guy who spoke to me is like the New York manager of the museum here.
They don't know, but they want it.
Yeah, they want it.
Narration and interviews, Tom Clifford. Interviews, reel-to-reel and portable cassette, Bob Brown. Featuring George Willig, Gus Engelman, and Randy Zeidberg. Full-length 35th year anniversary edition, releasing May 2012.